Welcome to Under the Hoodie, a series where we go under the hood on some key topics around information security, data protection, and privacy. And we talk to key individuals and get under the hood around their motivations, who they are, who they were, how they've become who they are. This week, consultants like us are so pleased to be able to introduce you to Jemma of Culture Gem. Now, if you aren't aware of who Jemma is, then check out her profile. She's genuinely awesome in the space of putting security at the heart of an organization. And it's not just about culture, it is about thinking much broader than and deeper than most people think around cybersecurity. Now, this is a really important topic today that I'm going to share with you. Jemma was extremely honest in her discussions around her background and her upbringing. She showed amazing courage, I believe, in her honesty and being willing to be vulnerable and share that with you. I think you're going to find this inspiring. It is a deep conversation. I'm going to tell you now, it does talk about homelessness and the troubles with domestic abuse growing up. So there are a number of topics in here which are going to be quite challenging. So that's as much of a warning as I can give you. This is her lived experience, and it has most definitely shaped her as an individual. I think she's an incredible role model for people in cybersecurity and people who want to get into this space, but also just a genuinely lovely person to know. What more can you say? You're going to enjoy this conversation. It may challenge you, but I urge you to watch. So enjoy and learn. Hi, Jemma. How are you doing?
Hey Gary, not too bad, thanks. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Thanks for joining me on this Under the Hoodie. Um, as I explained to you previously, the purpose of this is to get a little bit deeper on conversations with some key people and key topics. But today, I just want to have a chat to you about you. So no swatting required. This is your, should be your specialist topic if we were doing mastermind.
No pressure.
No pressure, no pressure. So, okay, let's start at the beginning. What does a young Jemma look like? Where did you grow up? What's your family dynamic? What were you like as a kid?
So yeah, I mean my origin story is an interesting one to say the least. So I grew up 2.4 family, that typical from the outside. My mum was a school governor. My dad, I guess, was middle management. I think my mum was also a civil servant. Had a sister. We had a cat, and so yeah, from the outside, we looked like an average family. Reality is, I grew up in quite an abusive and violent household, and so it was not a happy place to be. So young Gemma was not enough, never good enough. Quite sad a lot of the time. And there was this, I guess, taboo stigma around being, in this household where the perception was we were, a normal family. So I felt like I had to be a normal child, whatever a normal child looked like. And that being a normal thing kind of took me, I want to say, to about 7 years ago, where I was desperate to look like a normal person. And then I discovered that actually it's okay if you're not normal and you're a little bit different. Yeah, like the journey was not a happy one. So I ended up being in the foster care system. Left school with very, very little in the way of qualifications. I actively remember giving up. I was 8 when I gave up.
Wow.
I thought I couldn't make it in this world. No matter what I did to try, it was never going to happen for me. So I was sat cross-legged on the scratchy carpet at primary school. and thought, nah, I give up. There's no point. I can't be what everybody needs me to be, and being me isn't what people want me to be. So that was it. And I think actually, I don't know if life got a bit easier at that point, because I stopped trying to be something else and just accepted that the naughty kid or the bad kid or the one that wasn't good enough was just that was all there was.
Mm.
So yeah, then I guess I left school at the age of 14, no qualifications, no nothing. Moved around because that's what happens when you're quite often in an emergency foster care situation. If you get shoved from pillar to post, carry on being an outsider, and managed to get two GCSEs in the end, both in English. I can read stuff and write it down. And yeah, I guess that's my origin story. Young Gemma was quite
Wow.
sad and didn't really fit in anywhere.
Wow. I'm sorry to hear that. And I mean that. So when did you actually go into the foster care system?
So around about 13 or 14, and actually the first time social services were involved in my life, I believe I was 18 months, or my sister was 18 months old, and we were both in hospital at the same time with unexplained injuries. And so there was always this, I guess, I don't think we were aware that there was a watching, and I don't. It was only later on in life, probably in the last 10 years, where I've sort of realised what all of these things meant. So I used to get taken out of lessons, and I'd go to the library with someone, or like, so which I now understand to be play therapy, but I didn't know at the time. So I guess there was always, somebody keeping an eye on what was going on. Um, but yeah, so I got to a point where I just felt like I couldn't do it anymore. And
Mm.
so either I didn't think I was going to survive. So
Mm.
I I got myself away from the situation. I thought, this might be a little bit deep for your podcast, unfortunately, Gary, but
No,
it
not
was
at all.
either I wasn't going to make it out alive because of someone else's doing or because of my doing, because I just literally couldn't do it anymore. So I went to school one day and said to all of my friends, that's it, I'm gone. And my head of year said, it kind of got around the school that I was leaving. Gemma's had enough of it all. Um, and so my head of year called me into the office, and I thought, that's it, my plans are ruined. And he said, I'll give you an hour to get away and then I'll call the police. And I thought, well, that was lovely at the time. I thought, he's rescuing me. But in reality, he didn't want to do the paperwork. And so he could have at any point, could have done something. But I guess there were a lot of failings in my childhood, where, people of authority could have stepped in and done something.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that probably only in the last 2 or 3 years have I thought, oh, probably did that because he couldn't be bothered to do anything all of the times where he could have done something.
Mm. Wow. And no, I mean, thank you for sharing that. It's not too deep for this podcast. That's, to be honest with you, that's part of the purpose of this is to understand why people do what they do today. You know
Yeah.
why you do and what your approach is and such like. So obviously, in those formative years, you've had a hell of a disruptive formative years.
Mm.
So how long did that period go on for? Because you said you were eight, if I got it right, you were 8 years old when you were sat on that scratchy carpet, and then you were 13, 14 years old when you went into care. So the system knew things were happening for that period of time. Is that right?
Yeah, well, for a lot longer than that. From when I was about 18 months old, that's when it started. Yeah.
Wow. And you just said there, because we've skipped over a massive piece, which we're going to go back to in a second, but you said it was only in the last 5, 10 years that you kind of dismantled this and started to understand it a bit more, and even in the last couple of years understood kind of the system failed you. Have you gone back and have you been able to have a relationship with your parents at all, or is that just a no?
No, well, I don't know if you can call it a relationship. None of my friends can really understand the situation, but I do. engage with them. Um, I'm still trying to prove that I'm good enough, even though I gave up when I was 8. There's still part of me that, shows them I guess, what is the equivalent of my drawing at school. Like last week, I was in Women's Own, and so I sent it to my mum and dad and was like, "Look, I'm in Women's Own because this is cool," and or I get no response, or okay. So yeah, no, I'm still not good enough for them, and I still keep trying to prove that I am, which I'll never get. But it's
Mm.
almost like, don't know if it's grounding or what it is, where I still get the rejection from them on a daily basis.
Wow, wow. I mean that is a hell of a story, and I think, like I said, what happens to us in our formative years shapes who we become ultimately, I guess. And we're all a work in progress, but that is a hard start to your life. And I'm not going to say the shining light because it's not, but I guess you learn resilience and you learn how to become self aware and self-sufficient, I guess, during that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, at the time, I didn't know what other people's lives looked like. I just knew what my existence looked like, and I guess I had an understanding of, that my friends don't have the same. They don't. I could see that they didn't have the same sadness and worries. Whether I knew what their life was like behind closed doors for them or not. Probably not. But I knew that mine was different. But it was my normal. That was the life that I had. What it sort of, you're right, it does teach you resilience and self-awareness, but I also became hyper vigilant. So I could see slight changes, pick up on patterns, and as a protection method.
Mm,
So, like, I guess what that looks like today is I sleep in complete darkness and complete silence because I need to be able to tune in to slight changes in my environment. Because that is something that I learned as a child to protect me from the unknown of going to sleep and feeling safe when I was asleep.
mm,
But also when I'm driving, I was driving the other day and I had a passenger in the car and they said, "Why do you keep, is someone behind you upset you?" And I was like, "No, I spend more time looking behind me than I do in front of me because I can glance at that and know, but I need to know what they're doing. Like the unknown, what's coming up
mm,
behind me is the thing that I pay more attention to than the thing that's in front of me. Because I've already taken that in. I know what they're doing. I know I've already assessed the risk on the road, but I don't know what's coming up. So I spend more time worried about, all of the little signals that I might get from everything else, which I guess leads me into being a good cyber person, of being able to, because I am vigilant and I can pick up on things and,
mm,
work a room. And same as being in the pub, I know when there's going to be a fight break out before anybody else does.
mm.
Um,
Wow, yeah, that hyper vigilance that you say, that being very aware of the changing um, energy in the room, I think
mhm.
is what you're talking about there. So that's yeah, and we'll probably will keep coming back to this because I think, like I said, it's a formative experience that you went through. So what took you? What was your first job straight out of school then? Because you said there that you left with a couple of GCSEs and then left school at 14 years old. So what did you do then? What was your next step?
So, I mean, probably get into trouble with child labour laws and things, but the first time I've always worked, like always. I mean, when I was a kid, my dad used to bring his expense claims home, and I used to sort out all his receipts and put them into the expense system when I was like 7. So like I used to do admin at that level when I was really young, and then a family friend had a chain of petrol stations. So in school holidays, I'd go and sit behind the till at the petrol station and take payment for everyone's petrol, which I used to think was really
Wow.
fun because what you don't know from being on the other side of a petrol station is you can see like the little thing lift up and it's like a little video game of like the people come and they use the petrol and it flashes of which number they're on and all that sort of stuff. It was back then anyway. So yeah, and I used to get sweets for doing that. And
Mm,
the age of about 11, my mum and dad are Catholic, and so the local Catholic church to where they live has a restaurant, and I'd go and work in the kitchen in the restaurants, preparing the veg and stuff from the age of 11, and I'd get me 20 quid for the week. And then when I got a bit older and I could do a paper round, I had a paper round, and used to do babysitting for the local kids. And then when I was of age where I could be employed, I worked in Tesco on the tills and things. So for as long as I can remember, I've always had a job. I've never been
Yeah.
unemployed. Um,
Wow.
yeah.
So so you left school. I generally ask sort of what was the most interesting or varied role that you've ever done, but you've been a Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, haven't you? You've done it all.
Well, yeah. So when I left school, I guess when I finished my exams, let's say,
Mm,
so I've done my two GCSEs and I've got those. And I basically what used to happen when you left the foster care system is you were out on your own. So and that was the case. 16, you're done. That's it. Now there was I didn't know where to go and there was no one to help me. So I ended up living in a graveyard because I didn't know where else to go. I'm like a child, so I've got no one to help me. So I lived in a graveyard for a little while, and I worked wherever I could work because being homeless is not the easiest way to find work. So at the age of 16, I worked in a hotel from 4 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. I used to do the breakfast and lunch, and then I worked in a pizza shop in the evening from 5 till midnight. So that meant I got my 3 meals a day because I'd get my breakfast and lunch at the hotel. So work in the shift, and then I'd work in the pizza shop at night. So I got fed for 3 meals a day. So resilience, right? Like sorting your stuff out and survival instincts. And then I became a teenage mum. So I had my daughter when I was 17. Um, and I did all of that until I think I had about 4 weeks left of being, yeah, until I was due, and then I had a couple of months off, and then when she was born, I worked in a college on a reception desk in the day, and then I left there. I went to a call center, and I used to ring people and tell them they'd won a free kitchen and stuff, and then get them to buy whatever nonsense I was selling. And then after that, I worked in a bar until so I'd start at 9 in the morning and go to work till I don't know about 3 or 4, and then go to this call center, annoy people while they're having their tea, and then I'd leave the call center and get off to this bar, and then finish work at 1 in the morning. And that whole time I've been, 3 months old. Um, so I don't know if I've had one varied job. I've had a lot of jobs in one day. Um,
wow.
yeah. But my career path has kind of evolved based on the fact that I needed to survive, and I had, a
Mm,
small human that needed to survive. So we basically went where the money was, and
mm,
I had a lot of jobs, and then thought this isn't sustainable, and I wasn't spending any time with her. So then I was like, right, I'll go and get an office job because mums have office jobs, so I'll go and be an office person. And so I'd worked in a reception desk before, so I went to work in an accountancy college on the reception. And then I left there, and Peter Gabriel had set up this music business in Bristol where he was it's now, I guess, a bit like Spotify, Apple Music type things where you can submit your tunes.
mm,
Um, and he'd set up this music business where unsigned artists could have their music available to download um, legitimately, not through
mm.
LimeWire or whatever it was that we used to stream from. And so I worked as a facilities coordinator. So basically, used to fill up fruit bowls and coffee machines and things, and wander around with my trolley. And so that's what I did. And I left there and went to the NHS and did incident management in the NHS. And then training on mandatory training, don't leave things inside people, all of that sort of stuff, which I guess is like then led me into risk and compliance. So there is a journey that I've been on.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna that's where I was wondering when we're gonna get to and then I went into
mm.
cybersecurity or into governance, risk and compliance and such. But yeah, so you can see that journey that you went on. Um, but I think your story is truly inspiring, and it is a story of resilience, isn't it? It's that survival, like you said. So,
Yeah.
what do you think is the talking about the job that your first jobs and in incident management, and was it incident management and training and such, did you say?
Yeah, I mean, it was so I say instant management, but it was like the security guard doesn't. I was literally talking about it this morning. The security guard doesn't turn up, so we got no one at the I don't know A&E on a Friday night, and it's all kicking
Mm,
off, or someone's been to the toilet on a chair 'cause that's an incident, and you so
yeah,
it was basically logging all of that
mm,
into a database.
right.
So it wasn't sexy. It just paid the bills.
Oh yeah, yeah, I can understand it. So how did that early life sort of start to inform that later life, do you think? Is it just a matter of just there's a job to be done and you're the person to do it? Are you single-mindedly kind of that's that, or actually, I'm going to change not the subject, the question. That hypervigilance that you mentioned earlier, do you think that's kind of your superpower? Do you think that's what allows you to be able to almost see an incident and the is that's going to kick off or that needs to be done? And is that kind of a superpower you've got, do you think?
Potentially, yeah, I guess so. And I think what that sort of manifests like now, like in my world today, is, and it probably did back then actually, and even in the pub, just not reacting, just observing. And then when I make my move, like a silent assassin, like I'm probably the weird one in the corner that's not saying anything, just seeing what's going on, taking it all in, hearing, seeing, absorbing everything, and then working out what that chain needs to look like. What are the actions? What is the risk? And when I make my move, it's a damn good move because I've not been the loudest person in the room,
Mm,
um, which I think is probably childhood trauma related of just sit and observe and see how bad this is going to be and then know how to react. But definitely never being the loudest person in the room because that didn't do me any favors being the loudest person in the room as a child.
mm,
Um, I mean, if I go into like the depths of all of, I was like, I think we all get to crossroads in our existence where we have to make decisions. And I've had some literal crossroads and I've had some metaphorical crossroads. And when I go back even to the age of like 16 to 18 and consider all of the crossroads and the decisions that I had to make, there are a lot of clues that I was going to be where I am. And I had no concept of knowing that this was even a career path that was possible to me,
mm,
as a teenage single mum. Um, but yeah, I don't know if this is too, if I'm lowering the tone of your your podcast, but we were talking about survival, and unfortunately, when you're a child, like a young person living on the streets, there are opportunities that are put in front of you that you have to decide whether that's going to sustain you or not.
mm,
And as a young lady on the street, there are opportunities such as sex work that are put in front of you, and you have to make a decision. Like you have to say, am I going to do that, to survive, or am I not going to do that? And
mm,
obviously, I think in the moment, probably the easiest decision is to go down that path. But that in the long run, is that the easiest thing? It's probably not.
mm,
Um, Now, I turned those opportunities on their head. So I don't know if your listeners will be remember this, but we used to do Ann Summers reps. Do you remember Ann Summers reps?
yeah.
So we'd have our little trolleys of toys and underwear and things. Well, because of the situation I was in, and I was living on the streets, and then you go into some sort of accommodation. The accommodation I was in was I lived on top of a brothel,
Right.
and because that's where I could afford to live
Mm,
with my child, and so I needed to sustain a lifestyle. So I became an Ann Summers rep, and I used to sell to the girls that worked downstairs. So, like,
supply and demand, right?
was I going to be a successful businesswoman? Probably.
Yeah,
So there are,
absolutely. You've
yeah, but
identified an opportunity. Yeah.
exactly. So it wasn't unusual for me to be sitting there with a load of scantily clad women as they were going through my suitcase of wares. But yeah, so there are a lot of clues. Like I say, there are decisions that you have to make. And I remember making a decision of I'm not going to do that because what would my child think when she's older? And that there would be a record. And at that age, how could I have known that there would be like this
Mm,
footprint of something that would be left behind that she would find out? But I didn't want her to get to I don't know, a teenage age and people be saying, "Oh, your mum used to do this," and that was one of the reasons why I thought I'm not going to take that
mm.
path. But I probably would have been richer now if I had. I don't know.
Well, yeah, quite possibly. Um, I mean, it's like you said, you had to make so many tough choices and difficult decisions because, I mean, it'd be easy for people to sit and moralize and say, well, this is what I would do, but they've got to live in your shoes for those many years and have all of your experiences to even begin to try and make a judgment on stuff like that. And but you've got my total respect because for a single mom to have gone through all of what you've gone through and to come out as nice as a person that I know you are, and to be as resilient as you are, clearly your mettle has been tested on more than one occasion, and you've navigated some really difficult situations. So to get to where you are now, full credit to you. Um, I think it's yeah, inspiring story.
I
So
think had I never had I been good enough as a child, I don't think I would have achieved what I had because, like I say, to this day, I'm still trying to prove to my family that I'm good enough. And that will never come. But it does mean that I wake up every day still trying to prove that, whether that's to myself or to them or to anyone out there that, because I've got a huge amount of imposter syndrome. Like I've wandered into this. I always say that I'm in cyber because someone left the door open and now everyone's a bit scared to tell me to leave. Like I've just wandered in here and found my tribe and all that sort of stuff. But the reality is I really care about it. So that's why I am
mm,
where I am. But I don't really have the same story of difficulties in getting into the industry that other people have. And I don't know. I think that's just through sheer determination and being
mm,
in the right place at the right time and putting my hand up and say, yeah, fuck it, give it a go. Let me learn it and see what I can do. And then developing a passion. But I don't think I wouldn't have gone as far if I'd have had a loving family. So
mm.
I think, everyone's story and factors make them who they are. And thankfully, I've succeeded because my family are assholes. So
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, you've used that phrase several times about not being good enough. You clearly are good enough. And I know and I fully understand what you're saying about imposter syndrome. Some people don't think it's a natural thing, it's not an illness and such, but I completely disagree with that. I think the imposter syndrome is that little voice inside us that says you're being invited to this party and you're asking yourself, how the hell did I get here? How did I get this invite? And I think there's an element there of not taking it for granted. I still have that. I get to stand on stage and meet great people like your good self and Hazel and others, and I think I'm the luckiest guy. Someone's going to find me out soon and kick me out. But I think that's what drives us forward. I think personally, that's what
yeah,
keeps us coming back and keeps that passion. And you said it there because you care. You care about what it is that you do.
yeah.
So, what is it that you do? What is your and I keep using this phrase superpower because the new Superman's just come out and it's all over social media and such things as this. And um, I'm interested in people's superpower, not, I want to be able to fly or be invisible or whatever, but, what is it that makes them light up and makes them different to other people? I think
Yeah.
I can see it in you, but what would you say your superpower is?
Yeah, before I answer your question, I'm gonna tell you what I wish it was.
Go for it. Tell me what you wish it was.
Teleportation, because then I could come and hang out in Leeds without rage of the journey. Love to travel, hate the journey. Um,
Yeah.
but that's an inside joke between the two of us.
It is, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've never been more terrified when I first met you. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, not always like that. But found our tribe with each other now, so it's all fine. Um, I think it is that doing it for the little man, the underdog, the nans, for people who can't, um, is the thing. It's that fighting a fight. So what I do for people that don't know is, I guess I do this the people side of cyber. And I'm not security awareness. Don't do any of that nonsense. I look at the people and the processes that are impacted by negativity of cyber, and how we can make everybody cyber aware so that they're able to protect themselves and become, I guess, like an army against cyber criminals. And like my tagline is, let's do it for the nans. And that's because my nan is my only family that I have. And my nan, while she's not internet connected, is not immune to scams. She gets a lot of telephone scams, she gets postal scams. And she's probably one of the most scam savvy people that I know. She rings me when things go wrong, or before they go wrong. She rings and says, should I be concerned about this? And she's 86 with no access to the internet, but she's aware, and then she talks to her friends about it. And I always say, I don't know if she's spreading the good word according to Jemma, because it's something that she even understands, or if it's just that she's bragging to all her friends that like her granddaughter is better than her granddaughter. But it doesn't really matter. But she's out there telling the story and sharing cyber advice with her little old lady friends at the hairdressers and the doctor's waiting room, and the woman who brings a newspaper gets to read about me and all this sort of stuff. So it's helping to create an army of people who know how to protect themselves and care enough
Mm.
to protect themselves. Because I remember, doing my InfoSec annual training last time I had a job, 20 minutes, and thinking, right, I've done it, but that's it, I've ticked a box. And I remember thinking, right, I've passed my training, move on. But it didn't change anything for me. I didn't understand why. Like, there was a cyber team, they needed to care about that, and the cyber team were quite mean to me because I was back when I had a real job. I was in marketing, and I would do things like I'd develop some sort of app that I wanted to use, and they say you can't use that because it doesn't pass the secure code review. And I'm like, how dare you? That was my Saturday afternoon. I built this thing, and it's really cool. Um, so yeah, like the getting the so what and getting people to care about their own cyber safety is the thing that I think is my superpower of the storytelling, and being able to engage and motivate people at all different levels, and understanding levels, right up to an 86-year-old woman who lives in a village in Gloucester with no internet.
Mm. No, I think it's fantastic, and it is a superpower. You're absolutely right. We both know lots of people in the infosec industry, and some people can quite literally talk binary. I often say that they're almost like Neo. Plug them into a computer, and they see the matrix. But
Mm.
ask them to explain why this topic is so important, and they can't do it. And to have that ability to be able to communicate uh, what security is, how it applies to you in your role or in your personal life. And you just said there that key word, why they should care. I think he really is a superpower, and we need more communicators like you who are doing that, because whilst I'm not saying the technology is perfect, because it's not, it's fallible like everything is. Um,
Mm.
we have neglected the people side of it, I think, for far
Yeah.
too long. And
Yeah.
the analogy I always give is that it's that road safety thing, isn't it? We've built better cars able to take accidents, and they've got crumple zones, and they've got seat belts, so you're more likely to survive. But we haven't trained the drivers. We haven't
Yeah.
given them enough training and awareness and understanding of the rules of the road. So that is a brilliant superpower.
Mm. don't even get me started on this. I was having a conversation with a chap called Stuart Avery, who's in the cyber industry as well. He was talking to me about stopping distances and when they were created, like, and how they're not relative to today's cars, because it was something like on a Ford something in 1958 or something. So it's like they never updated it.
I'm going to I'll try not to get onto this too long because this is about you. But I am going to be honest here because you've been very honest with me, so I'm about to be honest with you. Um, I broke the law recently, and I had to go on a speed awareness course,
Mm,
and it was the most painful 3 hours of my life that I'll never get back. And I recognize it's punishment. You know, I broke the law. I was doing 34 miles an hour in a 30 zone. Um, I have to just caveat that by saying that, of course, breaking the law is wrong, and you know, I have served my punishment. But I was on a dual carriageway, and the speed camera was, I'm just going to say, strategically positioned just before or just after the speed had changed. But the reason I mention it is because what you just said there on this speed awareness course, I just sat there just thinking, but this isn't relevant to this modern day and age. Everything you're
yeah.
telling me, I get up here, but in here, I don't get it. It doesn't, it's not,
Mm.
it doesn't resonate. It doesn't make sense. Um, but yeah, and the reason I mention it at this point actually is because not just because what you said about Stuart there, but also because after it felt like most security awareness training, it was
Yeah.
just done to me. I had to endure it for 3 hours, as did, 12, 15 other people. We sat there, we were talked at for those hours, and then afterwards, will it modify my driving? Yeah, of course, I'm going to be a bit more vigilant in terms of,
Oh,
you know,
cameras.
for the cameras. But will it
Yeah.
modify my training, my driving rather, my actions? I very much doubt it. And I
Mm.
think that's the problem. I think it's very similar to cybersecurity awareness training and what happens.
Yeah.
Um, but listen, I do want to thank you for going into detail about your upbringing, and I think it really does help me understand you a little bit more. And anyone who's watching this and knows you, I think may have learned something new. I've certainly learned lots of new things. It would be remiss of me not to talk to you though about seasides because this is
Mm.
an exciting new event that you're putting together. I'll let you explain what it is, why you're doing it, and then I've got a couple of questions about it for you. So, what is Seasides?
Yeah, so Seaside is the brainchild of Hazel McPherson and Jess Matthews. They are both cyber people living on the coast. And when Hazel told me about this, who's a very good friend of mine, I was like, what can I do? This sounds like loads of fun. So Seasides is an initiative to bring cyber skills to coastal communities. It's an event that's happening. The first one's 3rd of October in Weston-super-Mare this year. And we're bringing together industry professionals, recruiters, young people, people who have an interest in cyber adjacent careers into one place to network, to learn from each other, to attend talks and have loads of fun. We've got a lot of activities going on throughout the day. I'm running Cyber's Got Talent, which is the uh, spin-off from Britain's Got Talent. So yeah, there's fairground rides, there's arcades, there's great talks from really, really great people. Some who may or may not be wearing Star Wars outfits. But yeah, it's a community interest group, and this is the first one. And the goal is to, I guess, create a blueprint to take this to many, many coastal communities. The Guardian ran a piece, I think it was last week, that said, no, we're forgetting all of these young people in coastal communities and they've got no chance of a future. And so that's kind of the reason why we need to do things like Seasides, is to bring, I guess, the forgotten people of coastal communities together with really, really great industry people to find mentors and friendships and network and learn from each other.
Brilliant. Well, I think it's a great initiative. I'm looking forward to coming along, and may or may not be wearing a Star Wars themed outfit. We'll have to see. But it's I mean, it's an interesting, again, anything that can encourage more people into this industry, I think is
Yeah.
important. And you've already said you had very diverse career path. I'm not even going to say path into the industry, just the broadest set of jobs that I've ever come across. So, but if you were going to offer someone advice who was thinking of coming into cybersecurity, what advice would you give them?
Networking, but networking in a way that works for you. And so that doesn't necessarily mean going to InfoSec or I don't know, Cyber Week or whatever it is, a national cyber show. It's finding a group of people that are in cyber or cyber adjacent roles, that you can interact with in a way that's comfortable for you. And the reason that I say that is networking is not everyone's comfortable place. I mean, Gary, I've bumped into you enough times in networking situations, and you always find me standing really awkwardly in a corner, hoping that nobody speaks to me because it's not my comfortable place. I don't want to do that. But there are cyber book clubs. There are lots of things, like lots of online communities, Discord servers. Um, I don't know, like LinkedIn groups and Twitter collectives, and I don't know what all of the words are for all of these things, but there are lots of places where you can find your tribe and work out what it is that you are excited about and show someone what you're excited about in that group. Mine was definitely the people side of things. And when I talk about doing it for my nan, I live, sleep, and breathe doing it for my nan and your nan and your mum, dad, sister, brother, cousins, aunts, uncles, whatever it is. But working out what your passion is and finding your tribe of people, because people do business with people. If
Mm.
you're trying to get in, and you've got men on the inside, women on the inside, people on the inside who have got your back, they're like, this person's great, it's going to be so much easier. And you can almost bypass the ridiculous job descriptions by having people in the right places. I don't have any cyber bits of paper with my name on, not a single cyber certificate, and I don't know if that gets me kicked out of the industry or not. But there's never been a situation where someone's come up to me physically, virtually, in whatever sense, or where someone's introduced me and said, can you be friends with this person, they're trying to get in, where I've said no. I'll always make the time, and that's what you need, is find people who are passionate about the thing that you're passionate about and will make the time. And I don't think I've ever come across anyone actually in cyber that won't make that time to spend with you as you work it all out. Now, cyber is huge. Like, there are so many different nooks and crannies you could get into in cyber, and I think that's part of the battle, because the first thing that I say to people is, well, what are you interested in? And they
Yeah.
don't know. They've got no idea. So there are, I don't know, there are a few courses out there, and they're not that difficult, like Introduction to Cybersecurity or whatever it is. Go on Udemy, go on to Cybrary or whatever it is, and just take a little course and work out which is the bit that you thought was fun, because we can't really help you if we don't know. Like, and everyone will kind of prescribe, like, oh, well, you should be a pen tester because there's always going to be money. Well, I can spin around and pull 10 pen testers out of my phone right now, and it's saturated, and yeah, there's money in it, but it's
I
very rare
think
that you find the sexy thing where that's a pen tester that is life changing.
I think you're absolutely right. I think your advice there is absolutely spot on. I think it's that um, find that group of people, find out what it is that interests you. I've got a good friend who calls it shiny eyes. What gives you shiny eyes? What lights up your eyes when you get an opportunity to do this? But I get shiny eyes about many aspects of info security because I've been doing it a long time, but I'm I'm fascinated by the topic and in its broadest sense. So I'm a bit of a magpie. I like lots of shiny things, but there are some certain people who only get shiny eyes about GDPR and data protection. There are other people who get extremely excited about the more technical aspects of SOC 2 or other areas of compliance. And then there's the what I would call the traditional cybersecurity path, which is people get excited about pen testing, and yet other
Mm.
people find it the dullest thing on the planet. Um,
Yeah.
because it's not like they suddenly find out, they play at it, they look at it, and they go, "It's not like it's on the movies." It's like, well, no, because if it was like that in reality, the movie would be 24 hours long.
Yeah.
It's not the same. But I think you're absolutely right. Find your groups of people, reach out to people, ask them questions, go networking virtually or physically. I think that's great advice, and find the thing that lights you up.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And don't let someone tell you what lights you up either. I think
No,
there's a lot of that happens.
yeah.
Um, Everyone will tell you, "Oh, the salaries are great in this." But only if you can get in there in the first place.
Yeah, we've all seen the adverts of become a cybersecurity expert, earn £72,000 a year, and you're like, yeah, that's not. Eventually, they're missing a key word there. Eventually,
Yeah.
and possibly, it's not a
Mm.
guarantee, a nailed on guarantee. And I think you're absolutely right. Um, okay, thank you ever so much for your openness. And yeah, I mean, I've always been a massive fan of your good self, and it's sad to hear about your starting life, but what an amazing person you've become. When you talk about being good enough, you clearly are good enough, whatever good enough actually means. But you clearly are. You're an incredible human being, and yeah, it's been an absolute joy to talk to you. I do always finish with some questions, which
Okay.
I would like your answers to, if we may.
Give
Um,
it a go.
so, straight out the gate, and this is an interesting one for you because you've had so many different professions. But what profession, other than the one that you have now, would you like to attempt?
Oh, something boat related, I think. I really love being by the water. And that any water. I mean, a puddle will do me. Love being by the water. So I think, yeah, definitely something boaty, but I don't know. I mean, I just like to be by the water. So nothing too hard. Like, I don't want to be the one that reels all the rope out because I'm in cyber, I've got little to no but upper body strength. But definitely something that allowed me to be by the water when I choose to, and in the warm when I don't choose to.
I could see you being some form of event organizer on a cruise ship,
Mm.
that type of thing where you get to go out and make sure all the nans and the families are having a great time on a cruise ship. I can see you doing that.
Oh, I've never been on a cruise. Hazel keeps trying to convince me to go on cruises, and I just think I'm not great with people, like big groups of people.
Yeah,
So I
well,
don't
there
know.
is that. Yeah, you did
Yeah.
say that. That's so. Okay, we may need to
Yeah.
rethink that. We may need to rethink it. I know a thing or two about boats, so we'll have a conversation about that. But funnily enough, although I'm
Not
kind of
sure I want to get on that boat.
interested in the Titanic, I've never been on a cruise ship. But that might be a reason because I've read a lot about maritime disasters. Anyway, that's for
Mm.
another time. So, the next question? What's the best advice that you've ever been given?
Never stop being angry. And that's I'm gonna have to caveat that with a lot of things because I went through probably in the last maybe more than 10 years ago. I found myself angry all the time about life, about everything. I was quite stressed, and then I trained my brain. It took me 3 years, but I trained my brain to effectively, if a situation is outside of my control, move on. Why give your energy to something negative? So, but it took me a long time to be able to train my brain. What I mean is, when you stop caring about something, you're in the wrong job. And so, you know, whatever that job is, if you don't care about what you're doing, if you don't love what you're doing, if it doesn't give you shiny eyes, if it doesn't make you excited, if you're not passionate about it, get out. Because life is too short to do stuff that you don't care about, that doesn't mean anything to you, that doesn't give you a cause. And I know some people just, need something, but love it a little bit. Don't do stuff that's horrible, that doesn't bring you joy.
I think that's great advice. You're absolutely right. Okay. And the final one. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you turn up at the pearly gates?
Ooh. Hopefully he doesn't tell me to bugger off. Have a nap, have a little lie down by that pool. That'd be nice.
You've done it. Do you know what I think you'd say? He'd say, Gemma, you are good enough. Now go and have a lie down. Go and
I
take
think
a rest.
I'd accept that. I was the story that we haven't told is when I first met you and I shouted at you, and I'd just come out of this really horrible situation. I was doing this talk and I was talking about my life, and I was getting heckled by this woman. And I was really sad about everything that was going on, because yeah, she basically was telling me I was wrong about a load of things, and it was a horrible situation. And the event organisers were allowing this heckling to go on, and it just was consistent through a lot of the time. And then we got to the end of the day, they were doing a panel session, and this woman shot her hand up, and I thought, I just was filled with dread watching it. I knew she was going to come for me. I knew it was going to be at me. And she said, Gemma, do you think you're good enough? But it was the way she had this tone, the way she looked me up and down. And I said, no, but I don't want to be good enough, because maybe if I was good enough, I wouldn't get up and fight every day for what I believe is the right thing to do. So I don't want to be good enough, because I think that drives me to do what I do and keep fighting for the nans and doing the right thing. So yeah, it would be nice if somebody, if I got up there and he went, you've proved yourself now. Have a little rest. That would be lovely. But the bit that we haven't spoken about is I'd come off the back of that talk, and I'd got on a train for 5.5 hours up to Leeds, and the first person I saw was you. um,
Yeah, I
and
got
I
it full. Yeah, yeah. I got it full double barrels, but
did
yeah,
not
yeah.
always that mean, but I mean,
But
I had texted a bunch of people and said, I'm getting off the train, don't speak to me, I'm just going to go to my room and just decompress, because there'd been no Wi-Fi on the train, I hadn't been able to go to the toilet, I was freezing, it was the coldest train I'd ever been on, 5.5 hours, I was so uncomfortable. um how I didn't punch people in the throat, I don't know. I was so angry for being on this train. And then I came out of the train station and there was roadworks. I couldn't get where I needed to go. And so I walk out and there you are smiling. Hi, Gemma. I just lost my shit.
yeah, yeah. But we're friends now.
Yeah,
I mean, we're friends then. It was just, yeah, you were, yeah, it was clear to
aggressive.
see. Again, hyper vigilant. I read the room. I could tell you were in no kind of mood to chit chat. So I
Hmm.
just sort of gave you a
Yeah,
hug and said, I will see you later. But
yeah. Oh,
yeah,
I appreciated it. Yeah. And then
yeah,
I proved that I might have been a little bit good enough, because you then awarded me with the trophy, which was lovely. So
yeah, exactly. But no, listen, it's been absolute joy to speak to you. Thank you ever so much for your openness and yeah, the clarity of your message. I think is uh, astounding. But well, listen, I'm going to thank everyone now for watching, and there's so many wise words of wisdom, and I'll certainly be listening back and to this conversation quite a few times. And when I do see you, I'll give you another big hug. But to everyone
yeah,
else,
Gary hug.
yeah, Gary hug, yeah. But but no, it's been an absolute pleasure. And to everyone who's watching, thank you for watching. And don't forget to give this a like, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. Until next time, thank you very much for your time. Say goodbye, Gemma.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye, everyone.